I was talking about sleep is have you ever wondered what's going on with the second biggest nap that people take? Second biggest is if you fall into a coma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about some weird coma stories. May not be a surprise to people, but I have a very weird fear that gives me anxiety. Sometimes while I'm driving, by myself on my way to work or something like that, I start getting worried that about some car losing control, going crazy, and smashing into me. Now, that's not the weird thing that, one would be anxious about. What I worry about is the current moment, that exact moment that is part of the present is currently in my short-term memory. And if a car smashes into me, I might lose that time, that part of short-term memory.
Mm.
And
You
so
didn't.
this moment that I know might be gone forever. And that starts kind of wigging me out a little bit. Then you wake up, say an hour later, a month later, 10 years later, and you have no idea what happened. Your last memory could be dinner from the night before, kissing your spouse goodbye that morning, or that time you shouted in happiness that Waywut podcast just released a new episode. So, that happens. Then out of nowhere, you wake up in a hospital not knowing why or what happened to you. Thinking about that possibility is what starts making me anxious. That I'll be sitting here one moment, then this moment's gone. I wake up in a hospital, and the last thing I remember is like the day before, which would be weird. Today's episode is about some people that didn't exactly wake up with that gap like I'm worried about. These are very weird coma stories. Well, I'm going to start with one that bothers me because of my inability to remember my dreams consistently. In 2012, Alpha Cabeja was riding his bike in the UK when a van hit him and hit him hard enough to scramble his brains. He was placed in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks. The doctor warned them, that there was going to be some confusion once he woke up. He probably wouldn't remember the accident. He might not remember the day of the accident. He might lose even more memories. So Alpha wakes up and they start testing his memory. And this is what he told them that he could remember. On the day of the accident, he was on his way to see his girlfriend. She was pregnant with their twins. He kept a picture of from their ultrasound in his songwriting notebook. They even picked out names for the coming baby boy and baby girl, Sky and Nikita. The day of the accident, he was coming back from an interview for an assistant director role with MI6, which is the British version of the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
He remembered that the interview went really well. He also remembered that he had a small private plane. So, life was pretty good before he got hit by that van. Now, out of all those memories, only one of them was real. And that was that he did, in fact, have a girlfriend. While in the coma, or while waking up from the coma, his brain somehow formed a new life from all of his memories, and some of them weren't even memories about himself.
Wow, talking about being rewired wrong.
Yep. He had friends, a lot of friends at his age that were having babies, and twins ran in his family. So his brain mushed all those together. Boom, pregnant with twins. Years before the accident, he did apply for a job at MI6. So that happened at one point in his history. Unfortunately, that was years before. So he was like, what the hell? So he called MI6 because he thought the doctors were gaslighting him about his false memories. And then MI6 told him that, they were actually closed on the day of his accident. So there was no way he could be there. Well, psychologists think that with him being unconscious for 3 weeks, his brains were scrambling to build his autobiographical information. I kind of call bullshit on this theory because while you're unconscious, there is no concept of time. I mean, you go to bed at night, you close your eyes, you wake up, it's morning, boom, done.
Yeah. Quickest way to go on a trip is go to sleep.
What I find unnerving about this story is because it really shows how much of who we are as people is based on memories. I mean, how easy is it to lose who you are with a head injury that messes with your memory? I mean, if you sit there and live like some false life, or you can't remember the real one, you're gonna your brain tries to fill in gaps. It's gonna kind of change how you look at things. I have some good examples of this. In 2011, Sarah Thomason from New Zealand went into a coma after she got a blood clot in her brain that started to trap her spinal fluid. She was 32 years old, and she fell into a coma. At the time, she was married and had 3 children. When she woke up, she thought she was 19 years old.
Oh, who doesn't want to wish that?
She lost 13 years of memories.
Oh.
When her 14, 5, and 4-year-old children came to see her, she didn't recognize them.
Oh, man.
Even after being told their names, she would still get them wrong.
Or so she says.
But whenever, so she wakes up, her kids are happy to see her. She looks at them and they're just kids. She felt nothing. Just nothing for them. They were just strangers. Yeah. But it didn't stop there. She'd also forgotten her husband, and she woke up still thinking that she was with her ex, that she was, her ex-boyfriend that was her current boyfriend when she was 19 years old. Now, although she did not regain her memories, those were gone. They stayed gone. She did find a way to get back into her old life. Her and her husband essentially began dating again, and he had to get to know this version of her while she just got to know him, period.
Okay.
Yeah, but with her thinking that she was 19 years old, she was kind of acting out. She began dyeing her hair all sorts of colors. Yeah, she would act moody just like a teenager.
Oh,
And be
God,
kind
never
of a
mind.
bitch. Yeah, and that whole time, but I mean, he stuck by her. He never left her side. Now, unfortunately, this is not the only case like this. Katrina O'Neill from Canada had a cardiac arrest when she was 29 years old. So, heart attack at 29. Way too damn young.
Way too young, yeah.
Yeah, well, she went without oxygen for 22 minutes and was in a coma for 3 weeks. Why are all of these 3 weeks? Why is that the magic coma number?
It's a requirement.
Yeah, it's like get your 8 hours of sleep every night, or your 3-week coma every lifetime. I don't know. Katrina woke up believing she was 15 years old and wanting her mom. None of the articles said anything about any significant other that she had. She did have 3 children, though. When she saw her 10, 7, and 1-year-old, she said it was like looking at strangers and she felt nothing. Yeah. Well,
it's going to be hard for the kids.
Oh, hell yes. But I like the way that she did things. So she started, like when her mom sent her, like, hey, these are your kids, stuff like that. So she put in the work. She wanted to, kind of fix all this stuff. So she spent time working on memory games and other things, just hoping that would like maybe unlock or open up some of those memories. But nothing brought them back. But she did use those games and stuff to rebuild her relationship with her children. They were always there helping her along. Whenever they would, she would look through pictures and, she'd see herself happy with these kids, but she wouldn't recognize it. Her kids would sit there and talk about that memory with her and tell her about all the fun stuff and share that with her. You can't really say that it filled in the blanks because those blanks were still blank, but it gave her more perspective on what her life was like that. And it gave them something to bond over.
Both of these people, these families, had the prime opportunity to recreate the movie Overboard, and none of them took advantage of it.
Well, the difference is in Overboard, she falls off of a ship and washes ashore and is a Jane Doe. None of these people were. You have to have an
Right. But they could have,
amnesiac Jane or John Doe for an
or they
overboard
could have given
situation.
her false memories of this is who you really were. This is what you really did on a daily basis.
What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, like, what? Doing an overboard isn't exactly the coolest thing ever. I mean, Kurt Russell only got away with it because he's, damn handsome man. But
He can make one hell of a closet.
you do not sit there and take advantage of a loved one being out and being like, I'm going to make them think that they were a monkey trainer for what the fuck's wrong with you?
Hey, man, when life gives you lemons.
Whatever. No, that's not lip. Oh God, you're okay. Move on. According to the articles that came out last year, her and her family are doing very well. They're all great. So happy ending there. So
It,
yay! Well, losing part of your life is unsettling, but what happens to you if your comatose mind doesn't lock you into dream world or cut off a chunk of your brain, your life? In 2019, a study found that 1 in 10 coma patients could be what's called locked in. This is when you stay aware while in the coma, but you're still unable to communicate.
oh, I had a house episode about that.
My dad, he told me about whenever my grandfather was in a coma for like 4 days or something like that, 4 or 5 days. And when his dad woke up and talked to him about it later on, his dad told him he could hear everything that people were saying around him.
Oh, it's freaky.
Yeah. So if you do have someone that you care about in a coma, don't feel stupid for talking to them, and don't confess how much you hate them or anything that you were hiding from them, because there's a chance they could hear you. All right. Jeffrey Lean fell into a coma for a month, so not 3 weeks, hooray, following an operation in 1990. He stated that for much of that time during that month, he knew what was going on. He says he could hear and feel during that time. When he got out of the coma, he was telling people things that they said while they were around him, and stuff that he heard playing on TV regarding like news and stuff that they had playing on the TV. Mm-hmm. He was telling them, "Hey,
and
yeah,
coincide with the story."
Yeah. The way he described it is, he said it was more troubling than scary. The reason that is like the nurses would talk to him constantly, even though he was in a coma, and they would sit there and tell him the things that they were doing, whether it's, hey, we're going to give you a shot. Oh, I'm taking your blood pressure. I hope you're doing well. All this other stuff. He remembers feeling his wife hold his hands and reassuring him that, their kids were okay. He was very fortunate to have those people talking to him, because it helped him remember that he wasn't alone, even though God knows if you're going to feel alone, you're just trapped there, not being able to move or anything. Just imagining what that situation would be like if people weren't trying to talk to him makes my skin just freaking crawl. A theory about this is like one of those fucked up theories. I'm thinking somebody was having a bad trip on mushrooms. They're like, what if you're still conscious whenever you die and you're just stuck there trapped in the body and you can't do anything?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Forever until you rot. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why didn't your mom hug you more? I mean, fortunately, that's not anatomically possible. So
that's where religion comes in.
All right. Well, another one similar to this was a young lady in California. She was kind of a mixture of all of the experiences that we talked about, except for the memory loss. And she was only 13 years old whenever it happened. Claire Wineland was placed in a medically induced coma for 16 days following a surgery for her cystic fibrosis that resulted in sepsis. So they do a surgery for cystic fibrosis. She ends up with an infection. They need to be able to fight it, so they knock her out, put her in a coma. She insists that she was aware of things that were happening around her. She said she could hear and feel everything, but that sensory input would get interpreted or filtered in strange ways. For instance, when they inverted her body, so they turned her upside down to drain fluids. In her mind, she was in a strange hammock and her foot was stuck. So she couldn't get out. But this is her brain trying to explain, like, why am I being hung over like this? At another point, they packed ice around her to bring her temperature down because she's had a severe fever. In her head, those ice packs became her being in Alaska and looking at all of the scenery despite it being super cold because it was Alaska. After she woke up, she had trouble adjusting and figuring out what was real and what was a hallucination.
I
Because,
bet
there for a while, her whole world was weird for
everything was a
a couple weeks.
hallucination.
Yeah. She did come out of this experience inspired by the way that her community supported her family while she was in the coma. She ended up founding a charity that at 13 years old, she founded a charity 13 years old called Claire's Place Foundation that supports children with cystic fibrosis and their families. Unfortunately, in 2018, Claire died at the age of 21 following a double lung transplant.
Damn, double lung transplant.
Yeah, at 21. Her charity still lives on, and I'm going to put a link in the description if you want to support a good cause, but built by a very strong and brave girl. Feel free to go check them out.